get Shine doing real early damage in the top lane, but I feel like he doesn't even need help, right? In that 1v1, he seemed to be going pretty damn well, and we'll see what he's going to be able to do against Blair as it's time for the draft. Maokai taken straight out of there, so Arashi not going to be able to get his hands on that one.
Yeah, I mean, that's the first target ban that you're going to go and see, right? That's the only champion he actually played in their matchup against Team Thailand. So, you know, not much to go off beyond that as to what he might like to lean into. But the fact that that's taken away is already quite evidence that Team Singapore have maybe had a bit of a look back at what Malaysia was able to bring to the table, and they're going to try to start causing some issues. But so far, no top lane bans, no, you know, looks in that direction. Maybe that'll come through in the second ban phase, but something I think that we should definitely keep an eye on.
Well, Yuumi out of there as well. So even if this Zeri is going to be let through, which it certainly could be, there's not going to be that Yuumi to partner with it. We did see Zeri and that Milio, that combination, be quite deadly for Team Singapore, but it is going to be Team Malaysia to pick first. So let's see which direction they start to go with their picks.
Wouldn't be super surprised to see bot lane focused picks here.
Oh, this is Zeri.
Zeri's on offer.
So pick it, steal it away from Blaze. Don't have to worry about that one later on. But what are we going to see as a response? Of course, that does leave counter option to come through here for Team Singapore.
I don't think Milio would be a bad choice. We saw Team Malaysia trying to lean in that direction. So if you can take that one away from Felia, who played Milio twice as well in the previous series that they played. You know, obviously, A, it's a good early pick, and B, it's just taking things away from your opponent. Misfortune, yeah, not a bad shout. Outranges Zeri, able to try to bully her a little bit in lane. So something that we'll be looking forward to. K'Sante is obviously an early top lane selection.
But a safe one, a strong one.
That's true, but it kind of gives the opportunity here for Team Malaysia to actually get that early counter pick in top, which has already been favourable enough for them. So we'll see what Shine opts to go for here. I don't necessarily see a world where you need to hold on to that top pick for later on in the piece.
True. Shine, of course, is someone that can go off meta and play what he really wants. You know, he has the mechanics to back it up, and I feel like he probably has an answer, but we're going to see that a little later. It is going to be the jungle picked up for Arashi here. He's going to be playing some Kha'Zix, as well as this Naut now going down bot.
Yeah, indeed. So Zeri Nautilus is an interesting choice, and I wonder what the option of choice is going to be here for the bot lane of Team Singapore. We did see the Milio and the Braum in their first couple of games. I mean, Braum isn't necessarily a bad shout into the likes of the Nautilus.
Yeah, that was an interesting one for sure. And I'm keen to see what exactly we're going to be able to find out as we jump back towards the ban phase. We are going to see that Braum come through for Team Singapore. What's going to be going on for Team Malaysia now as they are thinking about this one, trying to figure out which way they want the comp to go. Looking at the fact that there is not a mid laner picked yet, unless that K'Sante gets flexed there. I don't think that's going to happen. So they get rid of Vi, of course. The jungle pick hasn't come through for Team Singapore just yet.
Yeah, so angling towards the jungler and the Vladimir. Yeah, top lane bans I think are not a huge surprise, to be quite honest with you, Mac. We were already sort of angling towards that as far as our early selections or our early impressions were concerned. So I think getting rid of the Gwen is certainly not a bad shout, but the Vladimir as well. Obvious counter ban coming through from Team Singapore is something that we've already seen Shine playing. So looking okay as far as the bans are concerned there. We've got 2 jungle-focused bans coming through from Team Malaysia. I think that's fair enough. Obviously, they've already picked their jungler, so they're just wanting to try to restrict the options of Team Singapore. And get to see what that first choice is going to be. Xin Zhao into the jungle, so 2 very aggressive, fighting-oriented, early game kind of junglers.
Definitely able to go for that harass, play for the early game, but also with that able to disengage. And they've got a decent amount of disengage for Team Singapore, so potentially expecting this dive, which makes sense with a Naut, with a Kha'Zix who are looking to run at you. Caspiel will be locking in Lilia.
Yeah, very interested to see where that's going to end up. I wouldn't be hugely surprised to see that up in the top lane, like you say. It certainly seems like something that could be in the back pocket for Shine. He Seems like a player that likes to go towards those off-meta kind of a picks. Actually, not a bad shout, I suppose, into Cassante, right? You have a lot of mobility. You've got a lot of movement speed on that Lilia. You can sort of dance around and cause a problem. And Lilia traditionally is quite a good pick into some of these bulkier top laners.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, but you can see that Zed getting locked in as well. So we're going to have a little bit of fun in mid. Azir against Zed. That is an interesting one. Zed, of course, probably going to go pretty aggressive, and then Azir just going to try to survive and scale towards that late game. So I feel like that could be one of the win conditions, but of course, with the other picks coming through for Team Malaysia, I don't know if they want early, I don't know if they want late, Jordan.
Well, I would say both teams are kind of looking to get ahead early with these jungle picks. I mean, even in the top lane, you'd want to probably be seeing, at least as far as Shine is concerned, a little bit of an early lead. But if you do start to fall behind, that's where things can become quite problematic, particularly when you've got something like a Zed Xin Zhao combo coming through for Team Singapore. That's just the kind of mid-jungle combo that can snowball a game and make it unwinnable within the first 10 minutes. And I'm kind of like a little bit surprised by these drafts on both sides. They're obviously non-standard, non-sort of meta compositions, and we're looking toward a very AD-heavy lineup for Team Singapore, which you'd think traditionally would be a bit of a problem heading into the mid and late game. But for Team Malaysia, right, they have quite a squishy composition as well, so we're not really going to see a huge amount of armor being stacked, right? You'll probably see the Zhonya's Hourglass coming through for Shine up in that top lane, maybe Sleep as well in the mid lane can make effective use of that, but beyond that, really, it's just kind of Nautilus that's going to be looking towards building up and getting tanky, and the reality is that actually you'll still be able to get through pretty much anyone on Team Malaysia if you're relatively strong, as the Zed or the Xin, and obviously Misfortune as well can bring in a little bit of both. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be an interesting game. Very, very interested to see what does happen here. I think down in the bot lane, you probably don't expect to see too much. Obviously, whenever you see a Nautilus, you're excited about maybe an aggressive bot, but Braum does tend to shut that down a bit.
Not a huge amount of magic damage coming through there for Team Singapore either, so that could certainly be a factor.
Yeah, I mean, obviously having a bit of a discussion around that already, I think it won't be a big problem for them. Like I said, the majority of the Team Malaysia composition is quite squishy, so it's not as if they're going to be getting super tanky, unkillable kind of scenarios when they aren't necessarily the kind of champions that will benefit from a huge amount of armor being built anyway. But let's see what Team Malaysia wants to do, right? They've got that Nautilus, so you could look towards some early game fighting, but knowing that you're going up against the Braum in particular in those level 1 invades is a bit of a scary prospect, so they decide not to, and they'll just spread out across the map as standard.
Let's see if there's going to be too much going on. Looks like we're just going to see, nice save for Red Ward, placed towards that bot lane, and then a nice save for Blue Ward as well, towards the Raptor camp there. Just looking to deny any early invade or any attempt at going to steal that red buff, but it is just going to be a top to bot path for both our junglers for the second series.
I wouldn't necessarily be so sure about that. I'm kind of interested to see what Arashi is going to do here. I think it's not a bad shout, Mac, but I wouldn't be super surprised to see this Kha'Zix just try to get in to the top lane early, just bearing in mind the fact that Shine has really been the focal point for Team Malaysia so far in the Road to Asia games, and so you might want to try to put some resources in that direction early. Obviously, it's going to be a risk. If you don't make it work, you do potentially lose your entire bot side jungle and really start to allow Shero to get ahead quite early. But again, I don't think it would be a huge surprise at this point for Team Malaysia to try to force something in the top lane early.
Well, we are going to see him go towards that bot side. So we aren't going to see that level 3 gank come through. Looks like he's going to go for the full clear, pick bot eventually. And of course, Shera not too far behind either. So, well, we're actually going to see the attempt at the invade now.
Yep.
Kha'Zix making moves. Arashi onto Shera. Let's see who wins this one. No vision. Shera going to be walking straight into the bush there, and he's read that one perfectly. Blast Cone will come out to try to get to safety, but the leap is still online. Shera will have to flash to try to survive, and Arashi with no vision is not going to be able to find him. Rotations up from Malaysia are not quite fast enough.
Arashi did everything right there. He waited to use the E before the gap close had been used by Shera.
Yeah.
You know, once he drops off that blast cone. Oh, Shine, you might have overcommitted a little bit there. That's really not allowed. That is really, really bad in this lane when you need to be getting ahead to get value out of this Lilia, and you've just given up. I mean, you've given up such a favorable position to a little bit of a silly mistake. I was going to say big advantage being gained in the jungle for Arashi. Great start to this game for Team Malaysia, but it's gone the other way in the top side of the map. And so now Arashi is going to have to dedicate some resources to either trying to get Shine back into the game or looking toward bot or mid maybe to be the carry for this one. And again, that's a bit of a scary prospect considering how Malaysia had played in their first couple of games against Team Thailand, which was very top-focused, top-heavy. I think Sleep, you know, he was a consistent force in those games.
Oh, yeah.
So he might be the one that I'd be looking to right here. But, you know, there are still opportunities up in this top lane. And Lilia always feels like she's going to do some damage. So if you can catch Blair out of position, if he's this progressed up in the lane, for example, and the Kha'Zix arrives, then there is definitely going to be enough damage to finish the Sante off, and Blair might have just stuck around a bit too long. Does have flash. Shine doesn't have that.
Is he going to be able to turn it around with the tower? Looks like he will survive. Respect being shown. Shine had no read on where Shera was coming from, and we'll just go back to the cannon instead. So still gets a decent amount of gold from that trade, and now has full control of the wave. He's just going to go for the slow push now, as Blair invests the TP to get back to lane. So getting that out before the 5-minute mark means it should be online as soon as it gets unleashed. And we're going to see that top scuttle going over to Team Singapore as well. Ari Kelly doing decent work already. Just chunking away at Sleep's health. In terms of the CS, it's pretty even across the board, except in the jungle.
Well, not really too much of a surprise there, given the early shenanigans from Arashi. I like it. Exactly what you've got to be doing when you're the Kha'Zix. You want to try to dictate the game. Would have been nice if that hook would have connected.
And that slight CS gap as well means that Kha'Zix, he's already got that lethality online. He's got the serrated Dirk to play with rather than the two longswords of Shera. So you know, a little goes a long way, especially in the early game.
I'm still really interested to see how this top lane ends up going. Good trade so far from Blair, but the longer this goes, Shine with that tick damage can start to outscale. Will be forced to reset, but it does have TP, so it shouldn't be too big of a concern. Down a level, here's a gank in toward mid. Arakelik is in trouble. Ooh. And Team Malaysia, they get it done without the mid laner.
They're making moves. Sleep unnecessary. Just gank City. Feel you're going to be coming in, getting that root, getting that hook off. A beautifully executed gank to find an answer for them. What went down earlier in top lane. So 1 kill apiece now. Shine happy. Just keep on taking this fight. Keep on refreshing that passive and just chunk away at Blair's HP over time. And with that pick at mid, we are going to see Team Malaysia off to go for the first dragon. Shine gets the solo bolo again. Almost didn't, but it worked out in his favour.
Yeah, dragon fight still going to ensue. Team Singapore looking pretty good in this one. Kasuo looking quite low, but Caspiel, Sleep getting out of there okay. Never mind. The Braum passive stun coming through with the goods, and that ends up being a couple of kills down toward the bot side of the map for Team Singapore. Maybe Malaysia just getting a little bit too over-eager for that dragon.
By the way, things going well after a sloppy start at top for our friend Shine. Blair going to go down 2 times now. And this is what we missed. The start of the fight. A big couple of stuns coming through onto Team Malaysia, and that's exactly what cost them the fight and cost them a couple of individuals. Sleep, he will get flashed on. Good range coming through from the MF2. Locks up the stun with the passive coming out from a good friend Raw. And that is going to be the Drake taken by Team Singapore now.
I'm just not really sure what the read is there for Team Malaysia, right? They don't have any vision in their opponent's jungle. They don't see any of their opponents on the map. Like, mid was missing, bot was missing. They didn't know where the jungler was. Sure, top was dead, but they're going to start the dragon with all of that in mind. And obviously, as we saw, Team Singapore was just hanging around, waiting in the jungle, ready for them.
What I want to talk about quickly as well is Team Singapore, in that first game of the day, they had such high KP. They had so much KP, and that's something that we haven't seen a lot of from this SEA region so far for the group. There's been a lot of solo bolos, especially Team Malaysia in particular. You've seen Shine happy to take those one-on-one fights. Arashi as well keeps on going for these early fights, early invades. He's going to be able to steal away that red buff in the meanwhile.
Shera might be interested in coming over for the contest here. Information, of course, is there. We do have Prio in mid, so it'll be a little difficult for Team Singapore to fully commit to this one. Zed's not going to be able to rotate across. There's an ultimate straight on top of Felia on that Nord. Somehow he's alive. He turns around to get the Ignite down, Mac, just so there's enough damage here for Caspiel to eventually find the 2-on-1. Very well done in the end. It looked a little bit silly, didn't it, for a moment?
Certainly did.
It did, but Felia knew that that damage was going to be the difference maker.
Just stopped any attempt at any kind of healing coming through. Of course, gets the Grievous on you there with the Ignite. But well played. The bullet time as well, just chunking them both down. I thought it was going to be enough, but it wasn't quite.
Doesn't really have enough items just yet to have a super scary bullet time.
Yeah.
But this is the danger when you're up against a Braum. You just get stuck in place. Just one good Q connected, and Felia from full to zero basically does try to re-engage the fight, but the the hook rather is onto the Braum, and the Braum door goes up. Obviously at that point you're not going to be doing too much. Great focus fire though from Caspiel, just completely ignoring the Braum there and really raining all that terror down onto Misfortune.
Getting so much value out of the ultimate, and we're going to see Felia just using the depth charge to force Arakellik away from getting too many plates there. He did manage to snag one away, and I believe that's that first plate going over. Not sure what mid lane's looking like at the moment, but Arashi is going to try to steal this red buff back. The smite's not going to be enough. He will be able to get it with the dot. Just barely.
I think it was the W. He got it with the W.
Ah, the W, okay. There was a lot going on.
Yeah.
And Team Singapore won't be able to find themselves that red buff, but they will be able to find themselves the Nautilus in the river. Not too interested in getting rooted.
Yeah, starting to see some gaps growing up in the top lane again. I think it was a little bit of a misplay from Shine to go down 0-1, but has started to bring it back quite nicely. Here in the bot lane, do you have quite a CS lead for Blaze and Kusuo? Right, it looks like Team Malaysia are going to get some assistance here. Jungler has started to work his way down. Arashi is there. So is Shera. So this will get interesting. Depth charge on cooldown. Ignite on cooldown for Felia. No flash either for Caspiel. I'm not sure I'd want to be taking a fight right now.
3-on-3. Maybe, just maybe, it works out for them. That bullet time could be used. Looks
my
like
word.
There is going to be the attempt at the solo bowler in mid, and Arakellik. Too much damage for them to deal with.
Yeah, that's a one-item Z already. And unfortunately, you're not able to match that as the Azir, and so he understands exactly where he needs to be going.
Yeah.
And that was actually something that he brought up in the interview, if you remember Arakellik. He said his favorite champion is Zed. He likes to solo kill his opponents. And here's proof of that. Shine does get the sleep onto him.
Oh, is it going to be enough?
No.
The dot certainly won't be, but it will be enough to send him back to base.
Yeah, but I think he wanted to go back to base anyway. That was a lot of wasted cooldowns, and particularly with Lilia, that ultimate, the sleep cooldown is very long. You really want to be using that to perfect effectiveness. It's such a huge part of your kit, particularly when we're talking about Dragon being up in about 45 seconds or so. So hopefully Shine's going to be able to wait long enough.
Can he get this plate off? Looks like he will.
Agree. Knows that Arakellik doesn't have the ultimate, so probably doesn't have kill potential just yet.
Yeah. So playing around the cooldowns really well. And that lane swap is going to be committed to. Sleep going top now. To go one-on-one with the Cassante. Try to shove this one in. So, taking stock of the plates. Things are going pretty well for Team Malaysia, but either way, Team Singapore are going to be able to find an Arashi out in the open. I think he's going to be able to swerve himself away there. The leap was more than enough, and the rotation from bot certainly saved him. But Team Singapore, they're not done. They're going in to the blue jungle.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, once again, you're just seeing some important cooldowns being used by Team Malaysia right before Dragon does spawn, but they have other ideas. They're going to get that Rift Herald down in bot.
Yeah. Themselves 3 plates here. Ooh, not quite. Won't be able to chip away at that third one. And the Drake going to be started as well. On vision, mind you. So we'll see if Arashi is going to go for the smite steal. Looks like
not here.
Certainly posturing, but he is going to be spotted out by the control ward now. Deals with that first. Plenty of time. That Scryer's Orb looking good. Now they'll get rid of the yellow ward. And that Drake is getting real damn low, but there's no space. There's no mistakes made by Malaysia.
I think that's the right choice, yeah. Honestly, it didn't really look like there was much of an angle in there for Team Malaysia. The rotation was just a bit too slow from Sleep. You've already invested the ultimate as Arashi. didn't have the smite. I just don't think that you really need to go for that one. You can afford to give it up. It's only the second dragon. You're not in an awkward position. You're down 100 gold at this point. Shine's getting a fairly sizable advantage now up in the top lane. You've got a Zeri that's starting to scale into this game. Let's not throw anything away.
We also have the Chemtech Soul coming through. The Chem Plants are with us, so things can get real crazy, real quick. The sustain in lane to vision game, it all goes insane. Oh, and Shine here. It's looking good until he gets knocked straight under the turret, and Blair finally gets a solo bolo back after it's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things you have to be aware of when you're playing against Cassante, but we'll hold that thought for the moment. Shera down into the bot lane. They look like they want to dive. I'm not sure the angle's really there.
Oh, gets that root right under the turret. Kusuo not going to be tagged up by the turret. Doesn't have the aggro. So both teams handshake and walk away.
Yeah, a little bit of a lead for Team Singapore now starting to grow, so that is represented in the win tracker. I think it's fair enough. Take a look at the replay of what happened up in top, and again, this is just a misplay from Shine. You should never be dying solo. If you're this close to the tower, I understand the mentality. I've played a little bit of Lily at top myself, but you want to keep those stacks up. You want to keep the poke going. You feel like you should be on top in this matchup, but it's just a big mistake to be allowed to be pushed under turret like that and just taken full to zero. Like, it should not happen.
If anything, at least he baited out not only the ult, but he also baited out that flash from Blair. But that might not matter.
You're a far nicer person than I am, man.
I'm looking at the positives. I'm trying to figure out, you know,
it's good to stay
angles.
positive. Definitely it is good to stay positive, but yeah, I just think if you're going to pick Lilia in that top lane, you shouldn't be suffering like that. Because it's supposed to be an oppressive matchup. It's supposed to be something that Blair really doesn't feel too comfortable into, and he's doing totally fine.
Well, Philly are going to be able to get a couple of roots off here. Shira ults them away. Arashi happy to run. Man's real squishy. Is looking at when to jump back in though. Big damage coming out from Team Malaysia. Philia will fall. No one quite dying from Team Singapore just yet, but we are going to have both those TPs matched towards the mid lane. And Ari Kellick is hungry to get on into this fight.
Yeah, just a little bit of a better fight taken by Team Singapore. Sleep is in a very bad spot.
Emperor's Divide used perfectly to deal with him. However, Kusuo going to be able to live. No way! There is no way he lives here. Shine, he's going to miss those skill shots. He will find one eventually. Blaze here on the cleanup crew, and Shine is just chasing down Ari Kellick. But will he have the damage? Arashi now leaping away to safety. Caspiel as well, just trying to zone this one away. Blaine, of course, the melee champ. It's not going to work for Cassante. Ends up turning into a really good fight for Team Malaysia.
Yeah, Shine does need to be a little bit careful that he does not overcommit to this fight, because the Zed could very much finish him off, but Shine is as Shine does, and that dot is going to be more than enough. There was just nowhere to go for Arakellic.
The slam dunk.
Yeah.
You love seeing it there. Shine, Mr. Aggressive today.
You could really tell Arakellic was kind of hanging around there, thought he could make something happen.
Yeah.
I think if he just kept running, he would have made it out, but he was of the same opinion as me that, you know, if there was a mistake made there by Shine, actually there was an angle, but Shine makes no mistake in the end. Messy fight from both teams, but target selection from Team Singapore wasn't quite there. They weren't able to take down Caspiel. They were not able to take down Shine. Both of those players remained alive into the late game, into the fight. The late stages of the fight, I should say.
Certainly feels like we are getting a messy game of League of Legends. Everyone's got their protractors out. They're just finding angles where there shouldn't be.
Well, it starts to look actually quite dangerous here for Team Malaysia. We'll take a look back at that fight and just keep an eye on what I'm talking about, right? The focus early here is onto the Nautilus. Again, it's, you know, nice to grab yourself a kill, but the fact that Caspiel is able to just auto for free in this fight, and then if we go into the next fight as well, you're more or less going to see kind of the same thing. No one's really paying attention to Caspiel, and it's a bit of a problem when you've got a Zed on the other side of the field. He's not being able to get in on top of much. The Zin's not really able to get in on top of much. Yeah, they're spending time killing Sleep, but Sleep is not the problem right now. It's Caspiel. 5-0-1 right now on the Zeri that is leading from the front, and a nice little cameo in from Shine, even though it's been a bit spotty so far. Felia, again, the focus. Who's going to get onto Caspiel?
Well, they're trying. Caspiel untouched so far. No one wants to go that close to the turret just yet. Arashi dancing and just trying to space closer to the turret. Felia, again, soaking as much damage as he can. But Team Singapore looks like they are happy just to fall back and try to play for the mid prio.
Dragon's up again. So keep an eye on the cooldown timers. No flash, no ghost for Caspiel. Doesn't have the ultimate either. Felia doesn't have depth charge. again, I kind of just think that Team Singapore, macro-wise, is a little bit better place to try to take this dragon. I'd say this is one that, as Team Malaysia, you do just have to give up. Teleport, though, does come through from Shine. They're looking for the sleep angle.
Yeah, Arashi jumping in, trying to go in blind, but it hasn't worked. We'll be able to escape away for the moment, but there's damage coming out onto Team Malaysia. Shine going to go golden to try and survive, but he hasn't managed to get a decent ult at all. Kusuo in the back line, he's going to fall down. Arashi starting to peel them off now. A couple of good Ws, a couple of good Qs, and he could find more, but he won't. Ari Kellick has too much damage.
Keep an eye on Shine, though. Where's Shine going into the mid lane? I thought maybe trying to get a flank around the back, throw an E on top of a couple of these guys could have really opened the door up. Caspiel is returning to base on a ward. There's that E that I'm talking about. That can do a lot of poke damage, given the right circumstances.
Ari Kellick.
But, you know, again, it's probably just a fight that Team Malaysia wasn't well set up for. They didn't have key ultimates available. They didn't have key summoner spells available. They didn't have the positioning. Why do you need to take that fight when it is only the third dragon? If it's Elder, if it's Dragon Soul, I can kind of see the mentality. I can see the idea, but Shine is all the way up in the top lane, has to TP down, takes a long time to get there. It's probably too late even by the time he does arrive. Felia's already half HP, and I've already talked about the fact that you don't have these key ultimates available to you. The positioning just didn't look good. Arashi goes in a little bit too early. They didn't have vision on the dragon. There's so many check boxes that I think Team Malaysia, if they would go back and look at that fight, would say, yeah, we didn't have the right setup for this dragon fight, and you've kind of given Team Singapore a chance back in the game now.
If you roll it back about 5 seconds, take a screenshot, you'll see just how split all of Team Malaysia is, and it just did not work in their favor. Team Singapore all grouped up as well, which works against the Kazakhs too. He's not going to get that isolation damage out, and that might have been the difference maker. He was so close to taking out Ari Kellick, taking out Shera in that fight. And now we're going to see the action continue. It's going to be a battle for the Raptor camp here. Shera not going to be able to hit that W, hit that mark. But they are looking to fight here. Shine going to be able to come on the back line. Kusuo is here. It's going to be a 4-on-3. Bullet time is good. Shine going to be able to dodge it by going golden, but he has the ult online, won't be able to use it. Is thinking about it, but it's cost him his life.
It's just a bad fight to take again for Team Malaysia, right? Yeah, I can see the angle initially, but the fact that Shine misses the Q straight up, I think instantly you've got to try to get back out of there. They had 2 players down in bot. Sleep and Arashi were clearing the bot wave, and they've decided to take the fight on the top side of the map. It's just never going to be a favorable numbers game. They're not enabling Caspiel to take the fights that he wants to take. He's a 5-0-2 Zeri, but he doesn't have anyone to stand behind. Has to get right into the middle of it, right into the thick of things.
Okay, still gets a decent amount of damage done, and that might stop the Baron being taken here. You can see Shera, he's not feeling confident. Will have that shield to play around. And Arashi now just going to play the vision game, but he's taking a lot of damage from the Baron.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's good that they do manage to deny the Baron, but I really want Team Malaysia to take a step back and slow things down a little bit here. They don't need to be forcing so many of these fights.
This is what happened in bot lane.
Yeah, okay. They're playing the 2v1. Okay, they do manage to get the kill onto Ari Kellick, but they lost so much more up on the top side of the map. I didn't quite 100%. See that there was a Zed down the bot there, but either way, you know, Team Singapore taking the numbers advantage. Fight on the top side, a little bit more valuable, you would say. But, yeah, I mean, the advantage is still there for Team Malaysia. I think this should still be their game, right? You've got a 7-1-2 Zeri. Just play around Caspiel, okay? Give Caspiel the perfect fight. You know, a little bit of a front to back. You've got the Nautilus there to try to help peel the Xin and the Zed off of Caspiel. If they're focusing in on trying to get that Zeri, then Shine's going to be able to run rampant around the back lines. I mean, Arashi's obviously got some damage if he can 1v1 Ari Kellick. That's a jungler versus a mid laner.
The solo bolo.
Which is surprising because Arashi didn't have any kills.
He's had a lot of assists. He did invest the ult for that one, of course, just trying to dodge the vision, dodge the damage. It feels like Ari Kellick just must have been caught in transition all on his own. However, now we're going to see a bit of a team fight. Arashi going to be able to jump in and burst the back line. Bullet time going to be invested, but see you later, Blaze. Kusuo trying to get the stun off. They want Felia, but they're not going to be able to find him. And the hook back in, trying to turn it around. Felia almost giving his life, and now we get the flank angle too. Shine and Sleep, they're turning up to the party just in time, and they're going to find a whole bunch of favors here. Shera, he's ulted. He's hoping that he's going to be able to have a chance. Tanks another turret shot. Shine wants to turn this one around. Will find the jungler, and now it's all onto Blair. Ari Kellick going to be able to spawn and TP in, but will he make it in time? Shine has gone golden, but maybe not in time. Is it enough though? Sleep still dishing damage from the sidelines. Ari Kellick will go down to the dot, but who's going to win this one? Blair is way too tanky. What a bloody team fight.
Yeah, I was actually a little bit surprised that that worked out as cleanly as it did in the... Well, I say cleanly. Lack of a better word there for Team Singapore. I thought that that was going to be a pretty clean one in the end for Team Malaysia. Sleep just not quite having the damage just yet that he needed. It was obviously a really, really good Zonya for Shine. Those are the kinds of fights that Shine is really going to enjoy. When they break down, when they're messy, when you've got room to move as the Lilia, that's just the perfect scenario. Caspiel went down early in the fight. You saw the angle for Team Singapore. Kusuo hits the Q, hits the ultimate, follow up there from the bullet time from Blaze. And Caspiel out of the picture pretty early. But still, the fight ends up relatively even. This is where things start to get a bit problematic, though, for Team Malaysia. They've given up way too many dragons, and so now they have to be fighting.
Yeah, they have to try to fight now. They're playing to the vision control, but it doesn't look too likely. We'll have the yellow trinket ward in the pit. One control ward, and that's going to deny the damage, but it looks like it's going to be the hard engage. Philia playing a very dangerous game. Will be able to survive and fall away, and Team Singapore, they are all grouped up here, so it's going to be very hard for Team Malaysia to get forward, but Sleep, he's missed the Emperor's Divide, goes golden, and he might be falling with it. Bullet time gets some kind of value to zone him away, but look at the red health bars, they are going low. It might be the ace. Shira going to fall. It's only Blaze surviving, and he's not going to be able to get away untouched. Mate, he is not going to be able to do anything to try and contest the Drake now.
Yeah, that is actually a much better fight from Team Malaysia. It starts a little bit awkward. It looks a little bit weird, to be fair, and I thought, Felia, why are you basing in the middle of this fight? Ultimately, he didn't end up deciding to go all the way back to base, but I thought, you know, his potential impact towards the back end of that fight could be pretty huge, and it ended up being.
They don't have that much time on these respawns, but they are going to try to force the fight at the Baron. Shira's down, of course.
It's
and
a Zeri
damage.
Zeri with 9 kills. They can burst through this Baron pretty quickly. I mean, if Shine can get up there as well on that Lilia after having just respawned, there was definitely an angle for that. But, I mean, there's not even any information right here for Team Singapore, so they're not aware. So that ends up being a free Baron for Team Malaysia.
Insane that got completely uncontested. But as you mentioned, the vision just that much better right now for Team Malaysia.
I do want to have a look back at that last fight, but I'm not sure we're going to get the chance to.
You're going to need 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't think you can get that in any game of League of Legends.
That was an absolute mess. I think it just comes down to Team Singapore kind of, again, poor target selection, using a little bit too much, investing a little bit too much to try to get the kill onto Felia, and he obviously survives. No one's having a look at Caspiel, who had the ability to just free shoot in the backline. Just take a look. And just really keep your eye on Caspiel. There's absolutely no pressure. He can tank the bullet time a little bit. I like the Zonya from Sleep just to provide a little bit of space. He got everything down that he needed to. Emperor's Divide was enough to keep Team Singapore at bay. And Caspiel, relatively unhindered in the back line, is pretty much the perfect scenario. So tons and tons of damage coming through there. And Team Malaysia secure a very important dragon, but backs against the wall, at least as far as the dragons are concerned.
So much value so far out of this area. You can see why it is generally picked when it's open. We've seen a few games where it hasn't been, but this is just a masterclass on how to play around with the Zeri. Didn't need the Yuumi. And so far, look, we did question how this Nautilus is going to work into the comp, but Billy's been doing a great job.
I think you do need a bit of engage with this kind of a comp.
Yeah.
It can be difficult to find engages with the Lilia. Obviously for Azir as well, the Emperor's Divide isn't necessarily what you want to be using as the engage tool, but the hook definitely is a big go signal.
Feels like Shine hasn't had too many great engages, not too many opportunities. Bullet time just going to clear the wave, force Team Malaysia back a little bit. Well, Singapore just defending the T2.
I mean, the thing with Lilia is you don't really want to be the engager. You tend to want to be sort of the second one in. You don't necessarily want to be the focus. You kind of want to be like a float like a butterfly, sting like a bee kind of a mentality.
Yeah.
Fly through the fight, get your Q down, get your W down, drop your R, come back for another spell rotation.
Arashi.
Should be okay if he's got the E. Doesn't even need it in the end.
Has that spell shield as well.
A little bit of BM on the way out. Love to see it.
Edge of Knights. There, down towards that bot lane. Just constantly matching Shine. Having a relatively good early game. Was able to clean up shop in that fight about 5 minutes ago. But let's see how the rest of the game plays out here. Sleep going to try to push hard here on the top lane, get as much value out of the Baron buff as possible. The rest of Team Malaysia starting to just come on in. That empowered W is able to slow down Ari Keller, keep him away, get a good bit of burst damage too.
As we start to get a bit deeper into this game as well, you're going to start to see the fact that Team Singapore has pretty predominantly AD-focused team become a bit of a problem. We've already got Azonia for the top lane up for the mid laner. You've got plated steel caps coming through for Shine as well, so quite a bit of armor being built up. Also, a couple of cloth armors too.
Yeah.
So really focusing in on that armor. Same can be said down in the bot lane for the Nautilus. So starts to, you know, diminish the effectiveness of Team Singapore. Certainly were capable of winning this game, but it feels like it's starting to get out of control. It's been a messy game. It has been a messy game, but Team Malaysia have been able to hang in there long enough that now they do start to gain those advantages, and this area is really starting to get kind of scary.
Yeah.
Not that it wasn't already, but...
Five-time Hydra out there as well. Pumping out a whole bunch of damage. Now he's got that cleave online. So, the team fights, things get even more scary for Team Singapore, especially with how slippery Caspiel has been in a lot of these team fights. Maybe an opportunity, but Felia.
Yeah, Arashi has gone really deep into Team Singapore's jungle, so he could be in a spot of bother. He is standing on a ward.
He is. It looks like they are angling for the pick right now. Arashi, he's happy. He feels like he's slippery enough. We are going to see that Z ult used. Of course, Arashi, he's not too tanky, so should go down here. He flashes to survive. I feel like that was unnecessary. That would never live it.
It was super unnecessary. It was unnecessary for him to even be there. He thought that he was doing something a little bit cheeky, but he was not aware of the ward that was sitting on top of the Grom. And so Team Malaysia lose their jungler, but they still have to fight for this Dragon. They don't want to give up the Dragon Soul.
How do you fight for a Drake when you don't have your jungler? It's going to be that much harder unless you just win the bloody team fight. Lightning Crash going to get huge value. And now we're going to see the Lilty Lullaby used so perfectly. Braum not going to be able to get any more passive stacks out. Shira, Ari Kellic, not going to be able to contest this one, but Blair is who I'm looking at. He's tanky, he's scary, he's ulted up, he's got that gamer mode online, and Caspiel will have the GA to play around, but things are getting dangerous. And even with all this damage, he has to space perfectly. Ari Kellic going to be jumping straight on his head, and he doesn't really want to pop the GA just yet. It has to happen. That late damage comes through. And that Drake too, not going to quite be spotted or stolen. Jin going to lock it down.
I'm just going to say, I think that's a really big misplay from Arashi. Just does not need to be going for that little expedition into the jungle. You know, when you're a Kha'Zix, I can kind of understand it, right? You want to try to get those cheeky plays. You want to isolate your opponents and catch them off guard. But you just have to look at that last fight and think how close it actually ended up being, even as a 4v5. If Team Malaysia are playing a front to back, if they're just playing around Caspiel, they're going to win that fight every day of the week in a 5v5.
He's now at 4 items. Already with another component and looking to make it 5 real soon.
You've got to get out of the enemy
what
jungle.
Are you doing, mate? Everyone's still respawning. It's been an absolute nuisance.
Like, just don't fight if Caspiel is not there.
Yeah.
That's really what has to be said right now in the Team Malaysia camp. Because this should have been their game. It should have been their game to lose, but now they're going up against the Dragon Soul. And makes it tenfold more difficult.
We're also 30 minutes in, and no one has hit level 18 yet, because there's not been a whole lot of farming going down. There's been a lot of team fighting, a lot of fun, a lot of action, and we might get more of that as Team Malaysia doing Baron on Vision. There is going to be that control ward at the back, but they are trying to bait out the fight again with 5 here. Joining the fray. They are going to try to jump straight on the top of Ari Kelly in the back line, but he's going to be able to dance around. The fast beat look damn good, but look at Blair. He's dishing so much damage. Emperor's Divide knocks him away, and now we see an opportunity. Shine, he's going to be able to get into the back line, but can he get that damage out? It looks like they will, and Team Singapore are melting. They're disintegrating. Blaze goes golden, but it's for why?
Yeah, I can't believe that, man. Caspiel just got absolutely melted at the start of that fight, but Team Malaysia, they have scaled in. The Azir is now relevant. Shine in the top lane is also relevant, and they're taking the base.
And there's 40 seconds on these respawns. They can end here and now. And Team Malaysia might have had a bit of a rough early game, but Team Singapore, they're not here to fight. That gold lead, too strong, too big, and too powerful. Team Malaysia looks like they are going to have plenty of time to get rid of the Nexus. It's GG.
They certainly are indeed. What a topsy-turvy game that was. An absolute roller coaster. But Team Malaysia